I'm Sarah, and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is the Lady Stirs Knits podcast, where I update you regularly on all of the things that I've been knitting. I think some of you might have seen the video that I posted recently. It's the start of a new series that I'm hoping to do, where I knit through all of the socks that Stephen West releases in the 2023 year of socks. So if you watched that, thank you. I had a lot of fun making it, and I'm going to talk a little bit about those socks in this episode as well, along with a little bit of the next ones that I'm working on. If you haven't watched that one and you're interested, check it out. Today I have a lot of different knitting things to show you. Many of them are socks. So let's get into it with some finished objects. I'll start with these. These are the Drk Everyday Socks by Andrea and Mowry. It's a fingering weight sock pattern, although I'm not sure that this is fingering weight wool. I think it might be like a sport weight wool, which makes sense why these are too big for me. I talked about this in my last episode, I know, but I started these on an airplane and I had to rip the foot back out because the gauge was just too dense. So it's been a bit of a slog knitting these. I don't know why. I think it's like the ribbing, and they're also very tall. I don't normally knit my socks this tall, and they're also too big, so they're long, but I'm really glad to have these done. I have another pair of socks that I made with this sock yarn, which I love, one of my favorite pair of handmade socks. So after I finished those, I bought this yarn, actually off of fabric.com when I was buying some fabric to sew with, and this is so gross. I was knitting these center pull and I pulled on the yarn and like a dead beetle came out in like the middle of the ball of the yarn that I was using, clinging to the thread. It was very disturbing and gross. So I don't think fabric.com is still operating. I think that they shut down quite recently, but I never heard of this happening to anyone else. That was shocking. Who knows if it came from my house or from the fabric.com warehouse, but that was definitely like a fork in the road when I was knitting these. I thought, I really need to get these done. There's beetles in there. There weren't any more beetles after that one, but one was more than enough. The yarn is Patons Croix in the colorway Slate Jacquard, and each of these socks is a full ball. I just knit the leg until they were done, and then I did a really stretchy bind off, which flares a little bit when it's not being worn, but when it is on the leg, it looks pretty good. These are going to be a gift. I'm very glad to have them done and to use up some pretty old stash, but I'm really disappointed that they don't fit me because I wanted them. It has a Flegel heel. I don't really have an opinion about the Flegel heel. This is my second pair of Andrea Mowry socks, and neither pair fit me. So I think that it's because the gusset is extra long. Let me compare it to another pair of socks. Here's a pair. Here's my Stephen West pair that I finished. This gusset, it's about this long. So that's like up to the middle way of my pointer finger. This gusset goes up the whole length of my finger. This is not a very good unit of measurement. This gusset is twice as long as a normal gusset, so I'm guessing that that's why, and I'm also not that familiar with toe-up socks, so yeah, so that makes sense why these are too big, because the gusset is very long. So if you're knitting these, I'd recommend just paying attention to that, really following the pattern, and if anything, erring on the shorter side for the foot, or knitting them top down. It wouldn't have been a problem if I'd been knitting it top down. So these will become a gift for somebody who's very lucky. I'm quite jealous because I want them, but they're too big. So that's my first finished object. I don't think that I'll knit another pair of socks from an Andrea Mowry pattern. It's just 2 in a row that have gone wrong and are unwearable by me. So I think that now I might call it quits. Maybe I would use the Flegel heel in a pair of socks that I was just knitting for myself, but I don't think that I would ever really follow closely one of her sock patterns, at least not for a while, not until I forget the pain. So great yarn, but yeah, they don't fit. I'll just talk briefly about my second finished object because I have a whole video dedicated to them. It's the painting brick socks, and I finished these not too long after I recorded my last video, so you'll probably have seen these quite recently. I've been wearing them a lot. I really like the color. This is a pattern by Stephen West. I made the size 2. They're knit on 2.5mm needles, and I used magic loop for them, except for the heel and the toe, which I use DPNs for, because I just like DPNs for heels and toes. It has a garter stitch heel flap, which I didn't like, and you can see it's not wearing well. I've worn these twice, and I haven't washed them yet, but you can see that garter stitch heel flap is just kind of like wearing away. And here, I'll show you the other one as well. So I think that for the next, it looks like many of his patterns are going to have this style of heel flap. I think I'm just going to do a slip stitch. I think that I need the reinforcement, and I don't particularly like how stretchy the garter stitch heel flap is. I'd rather have a more stiff, reinforced, stronger heel flap and just size up for the rest of the socks. I love the colors I chose. The green is Earth Fibers Harvest Fingering in Fig, and I think that they say that it is dyed using figs, which is pretty cool. And then the contrast color is Frog's Hideout by Swoon Fibers in their Cali sock base. I really like Swoon Fibers. I think that it's just one person. She has an Etsy store and an Instagram, and I just love the colors that she comes out with. A couple years ago, I was on a real Swoon Fibers kick, and I purchased a lot of yarn from her. So I'll be working through that for a long time. I actually bought a sweater's quantity of the Frog's Hideaway color. I still have 3 fingering weight skeins, so I still definitely have enough to make a jumper if I wanted to. But I used it in my Shawlography shawl, along with the fig. Both of these are from Shawlography. But so I was using the leftovers for that. And I really like the colors together. This pattern was really fun. The fabric isn't really any denser than normal fabric for a sock, which I'll talk a little bit more about when I tell you about my next project. I used a slip knot cast on, which is my favorite cast on for anything. It's so stretchy, it looks so good, and it's really easy to use. And one of the really big benefits is that it only uses the working tail of the yarn, not the tail, the working end of the yarn. So you don't have to estimate how much yarn you'll need for the cast on, which is something that I'm bad at. So I really like doing that. It is a bit harder to do if you're using a less smooth yarn, but it is still doable. Oh, I haven't told you what I'm wearing. I did that cast on for this, and it was kind of a nightmare, but I really like the cast on edge. I think it's very neat, but also very stretchy. So I think that that's all I have to say about these socks. I really like them. I'm excited to start the year-long project of knitting all of the socks that Stephen West comes out with. And yeah, I really love the pops of red in the frog's hideout color. I think I'm losing the light, so I hope that you can still see stuff. But I wanted to record this video today and keep on my every 2 week schedule. I'll tell you a bit about what I'm wearing, although if you're a returning viewer, it should be pretty familiar. This is the Roosty tank top. It's a design by Ella Gordon. I knit this in the summer and autumn of this year, and I've been wearing it a ton since I finished it. I think it uses Jameson of Shetland colors, and it's a different colorway from the original, but I think that the values are quite similar. Hers uses a blue and an orange, and I kind of shifted one half of a color over on the color wheel, so I'm using like a bluey green and orangey reds, and I really like this. I wear it a lot. I kind of want to make another vest. I really enjoyed doing the color work. The worst part was by far the ribbing at the bottom, which I did have to do twice, but I really enjoyed working on this, so it's in my mind. I haven't really seen any other patterns like this, so I think that I would want to find a colorwork motif I liked from another pattern or from a book, and then put that onto this. I would also be interested in making like a kind of trendy, more modern knit of this shape, using maybe intarsia. Yeah, I'm very excited by that thought, but I'm a little bit like immobilized by indecision. So it's on my mind, but I really wear this a lot and I really like it. Like I have this mesh top underneath that I'm wearing now, but I also wear it over turtlenecks. I don't really wear it over t-shirts. That's not what I've been doing, because I tend to want to have my arms covered at this time of year. And if I wear a t-shirt and then a vest, I'm not gonna wear like a jumper over that. So the long sleeve plus vest combo works really well for how warm I want to be at a given time. My gauge was way off for this, so if you are considering knitting the pattern, I would recommend knitting a gauge swatch and checking your gauge. Like it was way off. And I made a completely different size and also did a different number of repeats to compensate for that, but I think it came out great and I really like it. So now I'll tell you about some works in progress. I have been working on 3 different things since I finished my painting brick socks. I finished the Drk Everyday Socks like right first. That was my first goal. And then, so since the Drk Everyday Socks, which did take up most of the past 2 weeks, I think 9 days, I just worked on those. So for the past just under a week, I've been splitting my time between 3 different projects. I'll go with this one first. The first one I'll tell you about is another long-standing work in progress. It's my sock tube, but as you can see, it's no longer one sock tube. It is now 2 heelless tubes. I cut them apart, I added the second toe, and I've knit cuffs onto both of them. I did half of the Jenny's stretchy bind off, which doesn't look that good to me, but I think it'll even out as I wear it. I don't know. I don't really want to spend any more time with these. I feel like I'm ready to get finishing them. So they just need heels. I've got this sock, which I knit with, not with a cut-in heel, but because I didn't cut into it, I don't think. Anyway, this is just the only other sock I've made where I've done this sort of heel, peasant heel or afterthought heel. So I'm gonna use this to measure where I want to cut the heel in for these socks. So they'll be shorter because they're just shorter. I just didn't have that much left. And the only difference I'll do is I'm gonna knit maybe 5 or 6 rows plain on the heel, before I do any decreases to make it a bit deeper, because this is ribbed, so there's quite a lot of give, and these aren't ribbed. And I also feel like the heel isn't really deep enough on these. So that's my plan. And it shouldn't take that long. And then they'll be done. In the past, I said that I was going to give these away, but now after finishing another pair of socks, those gray ones that don't fit, I think I'm gonna keep them. I feel like I just want another pair of handmade socks, and I was gonna keep the gray ones, but since I can't, I might keep these ones instead. Plus, then I can put the heel in exactly the right spot for my foot. So that should only take an hour or two, I think, and then it'll be done. The contrast color is Raisin by Sugar Plum Circus, which I also used in my shawlography shawl. And it's a really warm, almost purpley brown. I really like it. It's a great color, and I think it goes well with the greens. Okay, I'll tell you about this project, which is a little bit of a fail. This is the second sock in from the Stephen West Year of Sock, 2023 Year of Socks pattern release. I'm also making a video about this pair, so you'll probably get a much more in-depth complaining session about my current stage of sock knitting for these if you watch that video. These are the cabled trellis socks. I'm using Leading Men Fiber Arts Copper Rush and Spin Cycle Dyed in the Wool Castaway, which is like a blue and orangey color. My boyfriend in 2020 gave me 2 skeins of Spin Cycle for either my birthday or for Hanukkah, I don't remember. But I have been so sort of precious over them that I've been too scared to use them. So after the moth fiasco from my last episode, which I appreciate the comments about, I wish that I lived in a place, well, I don't know if this is true. It would be convenient if I lived in a place that was cold enough for me to put that bag outside and have it be cold, but it rarely stays below freezing here for longer than a day, so I can't do that. So I am gonna try the freezer method and hope for the best. That kind of put the fear of life into me, and now I'm using it because I'm scared that something bad's gonna happen if I just hoard it in my stash. So I'm using it for these socks. Here's what the Spin Cycle looks like in the cake. So I think it's really nice. I love the colors together. The problem is that this is too small. It's just a really dense, tight pattern. This like diagonal slip stitch motif. Not only are the slip stitches less rows because you slip half of the rows are slipped, but also it's like a diagonal binding cable, so that takes out even more of the stretch. So it's just too small. Like, it'll get on my foot, but it's really hard to get over my heel. So I'm going to unravel this. I was just at the heel, so I'm gonna unravel this and re-knit it. And I'm a little bit sad about it because it took me ages. I do really enjoy the pattern. I really like how it's a trellis, and so it's not woven. Because initially I thought that, I'll be weaving, sort of alternating one over, one under for these cable crossovers. But it's not that. It's not a woven, it's a trellis. And they don't weave in and out for a trellis. I don't know. I was very tickled by that. I thought that that was nice, and I really like the way that it looks. So I'll unravel, I'll knit it back up again. I looked at the forum on Ravelry for the 2023 Year of Socks, and one person in the forum who had made these socks, the cable trellis, said that a good way to give yourself some extra room is to, on the slip stitch rows, add a yarn over, which you then drop in that next row. So I think I'll do that, and I might go up in needle size as well because the fabric's really dense. And if that makes them too big, I'll figure it out when it happens, figure out what to do. But hopefully that will set it all right, and I will have socks that fit well. Like if I show you how they're just not that, they're very dense. So these need to be ripped out and redone. I also did a slip knot cast on for this. Yeah, colors are great, yarn is great. It's just too dense and it doesn't fit. So that's the sad story of my, what is this, the third pair of socks from this video? It's a lot of socks. Fourth pair of socks from this video because I have 2 finished pairs, the sock tube and those. It's really a time of life for socks for me. I have 2 more projects to show you. I'll start with this Sophie Shawl, which I have knit quite a lot on over the past few days. I'm just desperate to get this finished because I want to wear it so badly. I hope that the light is still good enough for you to be able to see the colors of this. So I have transitioned to my second half of my Sophie Shawl. It's a pattern by Petiteknit. I don't think you really need to buy the pattern because it's so basic. Just go on Ravelry and search in projects the word instead. And there are people who in their projects have said, I increased every whatever rows instead of the number of rows in the pattern. And if you read through those, people just have written out the pattern basically in their notes. So I think you should save some money and not buy the pattern if you don't want to. I am using fingering weight yarn. It's the yarn that I was going to use for my twists and turns, but I fell really behind with twists and turns and then didn't want to finish it because I didn't love the way that it was looking. After knitting this, I think that no matter what I knit in this yarn, I would love it. So if I'd knit the twists and turns in this, I probably would have been happy. It's just gorgeous yarn. This orange is Azalea. It's a brushed Surrey cotton yarn from Zakami Fibers, who's based in Edinburgh, which is where I live. And this purple is the color Psyche on an alpaca cashmere silk fingering weight base from the yarn dyer Nervous Fibers. And both of these yarns are just beautiful. This is just a stunning project. It's fingering weight. That doesn't really make a difference with the pattern because you just knit, continue doing the rate of increases until it's as wide as you want it to be or as long as you want it to be, and then you decrease. So it doesn't really matter what weight you're using. And there's a 3-stitch I-cord on either end. A lot of people say that this pattern is really quick and easy, and I can imagine that it would be if you're using like DK or worsted. I like the sound of that project. It sounds like it would be fun and nice. I'm enjoying this as well. I just wouldn't describe it as a quick project. But I would definitely make this again because it's been a very enjoyable knit, and I think that it would be a really good thing to use heavier weight yarn on. I think that Petiteknit has a version that uses fingering weight, which is like a bandana. It's the same pattern in every way. So yeah, but it's great. It's just, I really like mine. And it's quite a lot of work because it's a big fingering weight shawl, but I think it's gonna be really gorgeous. What else can I tell you? I did 12 row stripes for the first half, just plain garter stitch. And then for the second, this is my halfway point. And I decided on the halfway point just based on how long it was. I'm still thinking it might be a bit too long, but I guess like this isn't gonna be useful. That's not gonna like keep you warm, right? Because it's too thin. I don't know, I'm sure it'll be fine, but I'm kind of like, I don't know, I'm at that stage in the project where I just worry. So my original plan was to mimic the way that the twist and turn shawl felt texture-wise in Clue 1, which was sort of this very like bumpy, textural fabric. So I did a little bit of experimenting, and then I ultimately decided on doing 4 rows, and I wanted the fuzzy orange yarn to be the bumpy yarn. So I decided on doing 4 rows for the purple of stockinette. So 2 of those rows are purled, which is a little bit of a nightmare, but not as bad as I was worrying. And then 4 rows of garter, so just knit for the orange. And that is giving me this really textural fabric. I hope that you can see it. And the idea is that when I'm wearing it, it'll just be all wrapped up and wrapped around. So you'll get kind of a mix of the big flat stripes and the really bumpy, more narrow stripes. And I thought that that would just look really cool. So far, it is looking really cool and I really like it. I'm at that stage near the middle where it's just taking forever to knit. But that's okay. I'm just working on it steadily, couple rows a day, couple stripes a day. Hello. And I'm really excited to get to wear this and when it's finished. It's so soft and drapey. I've also knit the whole thing on DPNs, and the way that I'm just keeping all of the stitches together is I just have a hair bobble right under the needle, which just keeps the stitches together so they don't fall off. And I just knit back and forth, and every so often I pull the bobble up. But it's quite portable even though it's so big because the needles take up so little room. I could knit this on circular needles, but I find that if you're knitting flat, the circular needles can be kind of like fiddly. The cord gets kind of annoying. So I'm glad that I can just fit the whole thing on DPNs. It probably wouldn't be possible if I wasn't working with a really drapey fingering weight yarn, because you can really scrunch up these stitches. At the widest point, have I shown you this? It's about this wide at the widest point. And I don't really have anything else to say about this. I really like it. I'm probably about a quarter of the way into the second half. I ended up with about 100 stitches per row in the middle, maybe give or take 20. I know that I have 70 or 80 left now. So yeah, I think I had about 100 stitches in the middle. And I'm doing the same rate of decrease, even though I have an 8-row knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, 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 knit pattern. So I just been counting and then decreasing at the same rate of decrease, and it's not that hard. I thought it would be more confusing than it was, to be honest. So I'll probably need to wind up my second skein of both of these colors pretty soon because I've not got that many left. I'm not really looking forward to that, but maybe that will kickstart me ripping out the cabled trellis socks because Fergus. I think he just knocked down the thermostat. That's not ideal, Fergie. What was I saying? I think that I might just, when I'm procrastinating winding up these two skeins is maybe when I'll do the cable trellis socks. That's maybe how it tends to go with me. So Sophie Shawl, big success. I'm so excited to have it and wear it. and it's coming out beautifully, exactly the way I wanted. The last project I have to show you is an oldie but a goodie. It is my Oniero cardigan. And I have been working on my second sleeve. I think that I want to be knitting both of the sleeves sort of simultaneously because it's getting kind of complicated. I did put this down for about 6 months and now I'm picking it back up again. But that's okay. I kept pretty good notes of what I was doing, and it's quite like visually obvious as well because I have, I don't know, just visually obvious, I guess. So the Oniero was in the Dream themed pom-pom quarterly. It's a mohair cardigan that's a combination of cables and brioche, and they encourage you to do a fade, which I am doing, and it's designed by Hanna Lubben, I believe. It's worked from the ends of the sleeves up, sort of horizontally. And since the thing that makes it confusing to knit, such a focus knit, is that since the cable has a different row gauge than the brioche, there are a lot of short rows involved to keep everything even. So it's a real focus knit for me, but I think that it's gonna be really nice in the end. And this was the first part of the sleeve that I had made over the summer. My color scheme slash fade is from this like electric yellow to a sort of rusty orange. And I have all the colors. I'll show you. There's so much yarn for this because it's mohair held 3 times. And I collected all of this mohair over quite a long period. Okay, so we've got this color, which is from Hedgehog Fibers. I don't remember the name. To this color from Hedgehog Fibers. And then I have 2 options about what's next, but we're gonna end up here. So this color, it's hard to hold up. This color, and we end up here. So I think that this looks pretty good, but I also think that this looks pretty good. So I think that as we get closer, I'll make the decision. I do have 50 grams of the Hedgehog fiber. I think that they're quite generous, and it costs the same as other hand-dyed fibers, so I would recommend the Hedgehog fiber silk mohair. The mohair is from a combination of Pearl Soho Tussock, Hedgehog fiber silk mohair, and Knitting for Olive. And it's all in colors of yellows and orange. So, okay, back to what I have been knitting. Here is what I had knit. I thought I would work up the second sleeve so that I can start knitting on them at the same time. You can see how nice the fade is, hopefully. Since there's 3 strands, you can get a really gradual fade. Now I'm all with this sort of buttery yellow color. I'll show you my second sleeve. That wasn't actually too bad. So I've done this much on the second sleeve, which I don't think you'll be able to see. So I've done the double knit band at the wrist, and I've just started I've actually done a full repeat of the brioche cable pattern, but the brioche pattern is a different number of rows than the cable pattern, so you have to keep sort of referencing back and forth. It's quite an involved knit, but I have been keeping very detailed notes, so I know exactly what I did for the other one. I should be able to do this, and I would say it works up neither quickly nor slowly. The brioche is actually pretty fast to knit. Like it produces a lot of fabric. The cable is not so much. It's actually really surprising to me that the brioche rows are shallower than a cable rose, but my cat is all excited. Yeah, that's surprising to me, but in my swatch that came out as being true. So it must have been an incredibly difficult pattern to design. I think that it will be nice. I hope that I continue making progress on it. This is like a real from the vault whip for me. I have 2 garment whips that have been around for ages, and the other one, I'm not sure if what I have would fit me anymore, so I thought I would come back to this one because I'm in a little bit of a garment slump. I want to cast a new garment on, but I don't know, something's holding me back. So I thought I would pull out a whip and maybe try and get a little bit of progress on this in the meantime. So this is quite a good antidote to the Sophie Shawl monotony, and I'm having fun with it, and it's really soft. It's a beautiful fabric. I hope that it fits. My double knitting isn't great, but well, it does fit. I don't need to hope. There. So that's my Oniero cardigan. The designer's Instagram name is Rib Raglan Knitwear. So in case you're interested in checking her out, there are a lot of great patterns in that pom-pom magazine issue. It's what's that dress called that everyone's been making? Don't remember. There's like one mohair dress that a lot of people have been making, and that's from that issue as well. So yeah, I keep this in 3 different project bags. One for one sleeve, one for the other sleeve, and then one for all of the yarn that is relevant to the project but not currently in use. And I think I am going to have quite a lot of yarn left over, although it's hard to know at this point. I did less of the electric yellow than I had planned on doing, because if I had knit up all the electric yellow, it would have been almost all of the sleeve. But then I guess the body is so much more width than the sleeve is, so that will go through yarn much quicker. So I might need to order more of that orange yarn, but I'll definitely have leftovers from all of the other colors. So I'm excited to have that. I think that that's going to be more of a springtime wear, so there's not really any rush, which is nice, and it's kind of fun to work on. And I've been wanting to make it forever, so it's nice to actually make some progress. So that's my last work in progress to show you. I do have 2 different acquisition things, both of which, well, they're from the same place. It arrived today. I made one purchase from Loop London with the idea of ways I can use the Neutrogen that I own. I've sort of struggled with knitting with Neutrogen recently. I have a lot of it. I sort of fell in love with the color, definitely got suckered in by the marketing scheme with the get it now or it's gone forever sort of idea. I'm just now realizing that it's quite dark, and I hope that you can still see what's going on. The sunset on me. But I can always insert pictures of the yarn that I've bought that I'm showing you in case it's not coming off well on the camera. So even though I have just shown you a big mohair project that I'm working on, I don't always want to hold stuff with mohair, because sometimes I find it itchy, and sometimes it just really changes the, what's the word, like the character of the fiber, which I don't always want to do, although oftentimes I do want to do it. So I didn't want that for the Neutrogen that I had left. I don't want to hold it all with mohair. And I sort of made a promise to myself, no more garments holding Neutrogen on its own, either single or double, without some sort of stronger fiber to maintain the integrity of the fabric, because I've been having some issues with just the garments I made out of Neutrogen without anything feel so precarious when I'm putting them on and taking them off. They just feel like they might like float apart. So as I monitor those and mend them if they need to be mended and be careful with them, the ones that I'm making now, I want to make sure that they've got something substantial in there to make it easier to wear and care for, but also to make it easier to knit with, because I was experiencing a little bit of forearm pain as I was working with the unspun yarn. So hopefully this will help. And I thought, don't overdo it. Don't buy yarn for all of your Neutrogen in one go. So I just picked 2 of my colors that I have that are on the bookshelf over there and not in the moth bag. And yeah, so I've used, the yarn that I got is Isegear Alpaca 1, which is a lace weight alpaca yarn from Isegear. It is not too expensive. It's about 6 pounds a ball, I think I got it for. And each ball comes with, it's 50 grams and it's 400 meters. So I'll just use 1 strand of this with probably 2 strands of Neutrogen, or however many I want, but probably 2. And yeah, it's alpaca. I used this held together with another yarn when I made a hat for my boyfriend's mom a few years ago, and I really enjoyed using it. The colors are beautiful. They're very interesting, sort of dyed in the wool and then spun up colors. Well, this one more so than the blue. So I thought that that would pair really nicely with the Neutrogen, and it's got a lot of drape. So yeah, it really ticked all of my boxes, and I liked that I'd used it before. I think I bought them, the last time I bought it, it was when I was studying for a little bit in Oxford, and there was a really cute little yarn store near where I was staying, and I would go there, and that's where I got this last time. It feels like a really long time ago, but yeah, I had a great experience with the yarn, so I thought I'd buy again. I bought 3 balls of each, so that's 1,200 meters. Planning on holding it single. So this is the color that I got to go with the light green Neutrogen that I have. I was trying to match the colors as well as I could. So I hope that you could see. If not, I will insert a picture. This light green color is such an it color right now. I'm seeing it everywhere. I really, really like it. Like almost like a little bit of a dirty pastel green, like a little bit desaturated with a little bit of like almost like red or brown undertones. And this alpaca has that. It's beautiful. The Neutrogen also has a lot of interesting tones in it. I think they're gonna go really well together. There's one jumper that my friend has. It's like this color green, and it's sort of a drop shoulder, quite baggy jumper. I think that Sari Norland's Hour pullover would be quite a good dupe for that, but I don't know if that would be appropriate for this, since I think that that's a fingering weight and I probably would want to hold a Neutrogen double. But if I don't, that might be good. I also saw online a really pretty sort of broken rib raglan, but it was designed by somebody who doesn't design size inclusive designs, so I wouldn't knit that, but I'm intrigued by a broken rib raglan. So yeah, this is definitely a color that I'm really wanting to work with soon, and it can be a nice palette cleanser. Also, I love that these are in balls, so I don't have to wind it. It's so good. That color is thyme, like the herb. The other color I got, I'm being very loquacious today. The other color is 536332 or 16. We've got Time, and we've got color 16. And this is like, I thought that this would be darker, to be honest. It's sort of a teal. I thought that this would be darker, like a peacock, but it's actually kind of a lot lighter, but it's still okay. I got this to go with Botanisca. It's quite different, but I don't think it will look that marled in reality. Like if you look at it from a distance, they don't look all that different, I think. Yeah, so I got this to go with this. I have quite a lot of this, and there's one pattern from the Moon and Turtle book. It's almost like a varsity striped cardigan, quite baggy, that I was envisioning possibly making with this. I don't know if I have enough. I was going to maybe hold it with something, like with another color of Neutrogen, but that's quite far off in the future. But for now, I have the option of working with it if I want to, because I bought this alpaca. So yeah, I'm really happy with these. I think that they're beautiful. And that's about all I have to say about it. My plan for the next 2 weeks is to continue working on the Sophie Shawl and the Oniera cardigan. I'd love to make a lot of progress with those. If I could finish the Sophie Shawl, that would be awesome because I'm so excited to wear it. And I'd like to keep chugging along on that Oniero. And my commute knit will probably be the cable trellis socks. So keeping on working on my whips, possibly a new cast on with this yarn because it's really gorgeous. So that's a potential. And I think that that will keep me quite busy. It's a little bit weird to be, it feels like I'm recording this so close to the last one, but it's actually been 2 weeks and that was my schedule. So I'm looking forward to being back on schedule, not having such mammoth episodes and getting back into a bit of a groove. I hope that you've enjoyed watching this video. It's now completely dark outside, so I'm sure that I've lost the light, but I hope it still looks decent. I think this happened in my last video as well. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Goodbye.